my name is TAILINH AGOYO, and this is Rise and Thrive on Usla Media. Today we have a very special guest, Robert Martinez. Robert Martinez was born on the Wind River Reservation in Riverton, Wyoming. Robert uses historical imagery, myths, and stories of Arapaho culture, as well as stories of the challenges of the people of the West to create images that make statements about issues we face today. Using a strong contrast of lights and darks and painting in intense, vibrant color, he creates striking imagery that is confronting and engages the viewer. Robert has recently been given his state's highest achievement, the Wyoming Governor's Art Award. You can currently see select pieces of Robert's work in the permanent collection for the Smithsonian National Museum for the American Indian in Washington, D.C., the Plains Indian Museum at the Center of the West, the Brinton Museum, Red Cloud Heritage Center Museum, and the Rock Springs Fine Arts Center. So joining us from a residency at Crazy Horse Memorial in South Dakota, here's Robert Martinez. Hi, Robert.
Hi, everybody. Hi, TAILINH. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. I'm so happy you're joining me here today. I know you're not joining me from your home. You're at a residency. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's an artist residency here at Crazy Horse Memorial. I'm not on site right now. I'm currently in my luxurious hotel room. But I've been there for 22 days since the 1st of July, talking to people, educating people, and creating artwork on site.
That's a long time. How much longer will you be there if anybody's listening wants to stop in?
I'll be there till the 30th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like an incredible experience, though, to be able to chat with people coming through. I'm sure there's a lot of visitors from around the world coming through and interested in seeing your work, and I'm sure you have a lot of interesting questions.
Yeah. There are some interesting questions, and you're right. There's been a lot of people. I think with the pandemic and this summer, with restrictions being lifted, everybody wants to get out and go see things. So they say that attendance has been up, and I've been talking to quite a bit of people. It's been actually hard to get a little work done because there's so many people.
That makes sense. So let's go back. You were born on the Wind River Reservation. Can you please, for our listeners, give some background on where you're from and the community you're from, and what growing up was like?
Sure. The Wind River Reservation is in the center of Wyoming. It's home to two tribes, the Northern Arapaho and Eastern Shoshone. I'm Northern Arapaho. I've lived there pretty much all of my life. I grew up going to school on Wind River Reservation, St. Stephen's Indian School. Then I went to Riverton High School, which is the closest big town there in the center of the reservation. And we're surrounded by some great country. The Wind River area is home to beautiful mountains and lakes and lots of wildlife. One of the main corridors into Yellowstone Park. But keep that a secret because we don't like people to stay. You can come and visit, but keep going.
Keep on moving.
Right.
Yeah. So you studied art in college, and was that your first intro into art, or did you find that you always were interested even as a child?
No, I was always interested. Got in trouble for writing on the walls, got in more trouble for spray painting on walls when I got older. I always had a talent for it, always came very easy to me. Luckily, I had a teacher in high school who challenged me. At the time, we butted heads, but he looked out for me in his own way, challenged me, and actually applied for scholarships for me. So at the time, as a cocky senior, I didn't know what I was going to do, but he applied for me, and luckily I was awarded some scholarships. And then I went to Rocky Mountain College of Art Design and graduated there at 19 as the youngest Native American at the time. I don't know if that's still a record or not, but
that's very young. Were there a lot of Native students at the school?
No. I think I was one of the only ones. I can't remember anybody else.
Really? So
Yeah.
how did that affect your experience?
Actually, it was great. I mean, it was a small school, so it felt more like a big family than a university type of setting, where there's thousands of kids. But Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design was a small school and got a lot of attention from professors. I had a great experience there, other than being tired all the time because I had so much to do.
In terms of work, in terms of production of projects,
Well,
really?
well,
Just like,
class hours, credit hours. Yeah, I was taking way more than
oh,
a
right, because
normal
you
person.
graduated,
Yeah,
you were on the fast track.
yeah, yeah. Actually, that's what they called it, the fast track.
Really?
Right? Yeah, yeah. I don't think they have that anymore, but at the time they did.
That's incredible. So I thought it was interesting you talking about your high school teacher and what you said was it a
Mhm.
he? Yes, he pushed you so hard. And what stood out to me, he's saying you butt heads sometimes, but you always knew that you had a support there. And I think that's interesting as a young person when you're trying to find your way in the world. And a lot of times adults are kind of telling you, you know, different things, and he was always just looking out for you, applying for monies and doing all these things. And that's beautiful that you bring him up today and kind of honor that experience.
Well, there was a group of them. There was a group of art teachers. He was a new teacher, but there was Miss Gray. She's out there. Hi, Miss Gray. Nancy. Um, she was instrumental too. She was always there to help and was there through my whole high school experience. Mr. Weaver, the fellow I was talking about, he was a new teacher at the time. He came in. It was my last year. He was a new teacher. I was a cocky senior, so.
Yeah, amazing though. So and are you in touch with them at all, or do you know if
Yeah, I
they?
do. I see them every once in a while in my hometown. They still live
Wow.
around the area. So, actually, Miss Gray, Nancy Gray Center, she just retired. Um, and Mr. Weaver, I believe he is doing some graphic design things for another company. So I don't think he's a teacher anymore.
That's wonderful. Um, so from college, how did you jump into doing art shows? Have you always been a professional artist, or have you worked in other fields and did art on the side? What was your path
Well,
to?
right after college, yeah, I came home and did the art thing. I sold art and I lived on the money, and that lasted only for about 6 months.
Why is that?
Well, once you come home to Riverton, Wyoming, and you sell a piece to about everybody you know, all
Right.
your friends, all your family, then your list of potential clients kind of dwindles fast. So after that, yeah, I did a lot of jobs. I worked construction for a while. I worked in the school um, as a education coordinator for Native students at Riverton High School, and then I worked as a student advocate for K-12 students in the Arapahoe school system for almost a decade. But always on the side, I was doing art, trying to sell art, making art. I worked for my tribe for a little while as a program director, and yeah, that was the goal, was to become a full-time artist, and luckily I've been able to do that the last 10 years.
So what's the transition like? Is it a slow transition into, because you've done a lot of other work and you have a lot of other experience, it's slow transition into becoming a full-time artist, or is it one day you wake up and you're like, all right, this is it. This is the time.
Well, it's scary, right?
Yeah.
It's scary not having a
Like a safety net.
consistent paycheck, basically.
Right? Mhm.
And then, of course, I have a family. I have a wife and 2 daughters. So that's always a huge factor in any decision. Um, when I was a single man, I think making the jump to a full time artist would have been a little easier. Um, but fortunately, my work is selling enough to pay bills and give us the things we need so that I can make art and continue to make art, show art, travel. Excuse me.
You know what I love is your two little girls. My father is an artist, and I traveled with him from very young and helped at the booth. And so when I see them at We Are the Seed show in Santa Fe, or whatever other shows that we've worked at together, and they're bringing food to you, or running an errand, or playing in the grass, it always just like it touches my heart in such a special way, because it just reminds me of my experience when I was young traveling with my father. It was always very special. Do they like it?
They do. They especially like down there. They like it in Santa Fe, and
Uh-huh.
they really like the We Are the Seed show because they can run
Right.
around and goof off and stuff. But yeah, they do like going with me, but I think over the years they've gotten a little jaded.
Mm.
So I'm excited. I'm like, do you want to go to the opening with me? And they're like, no, we don't want to go. Like,
No,
guess
we'll
what?
stay
Guess what? Dad
hotel.
was on TV doing an interview. Dad was on TV, and they're like, yeah, we've seen him before. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so they do like coming, but yeah, there's a point where they're just like, yeah, it's cool. We've seen it, Dad. We know. We live with you, so
Yeah.
it's not a
We know what you're like. We know what you say.
right.
But also, they're growing up, so they probably done so much of this that it's just they're seasoned veterans at this point. But I always love, and then we always have so many great pictures of them because
Yeah,
it's just wonderful to see them at the shows.
yeah.
Um,
You've gotten some great pictures of them over the years at the Seed Show.
yeah, we love capturing families and community and interaction, and everybody's connection. I think that's so important in addition to the artwork.
It
Yeah.
is. It definitely is.
Yeah. So, real quick, tell us your website so that if anybody listening is not actually watching but listening on audio, that they can visit and see you and see your work.
It's martinezartdesign.com. All
And you
one
also,
word.com.
yes, thank you. And you also have a graphic design company with information on that on the website as well. Can you share a bit
Yeah,
about
a
that?
little bit. Yeah, my wife and I do freelance graphic design. She's a graphic designer for our casino, the Northern Rapo Casino. But yeah, we do graphic design on the side.
Um, we have a couple minutes before the break. I would love for you to talk about the different styles of work that you do. And then we can pick up after the break because this is probably a longer conversation. But you do, one of the things you're known for is your very bright, vibrant work. I mean, when you walk into a gallery or a studio space and you see Robert's work, you just cannot take your eyes off of it. And it's so dynamic and really powerful. It's so much. When did you step into that style of work?
Well, I used to, well, due to Rocky Mountain College Art and Design, I was trained, pretty classically, where you sketch your focal point, get the value, lights and darks worked out, then transfer that into canvas. Um, but then I found out that I'd have both a nice drawing and a canvas piece or a painting. Um, so I dwelled a little bit and figured out a couple different ways. But my paintings, the bright paintings, are in response to those black and white or sepia tone photographs that you see of natives. Um, if you see those black and white or sepia tone photos, you always think of a culture that's not around, people that are dead. So, in response to that, I paint in these bright, vibrant colors to show people that natives are alive. We're strong, getting stronger all the time, and we're here, and we're not going away.
Thank you for saying that. And that makes so much sense. And your paintings have so much emotion behind them. They speak a lot. We're going to take a quick break. This is TAILINH AGOYO at Usula Media. I'm here with Robert Martinez. When we get back, we'll have more conversation about Robert's work and life. Thank you.
Find out how to use an awkward silence to help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
Hey, and we're back. This is TAILINH AGOYO on Usla Media with Robert Martinez. Before the break, we were talking about Robert's work. Are you hearing me okay? I feel like I'm getting some feedback. Is the sound okay? Good. All right, we're good. You know, technology these days. It will be flexible. So you also do a lot of work on ledger. You do some ledger drawing type work, but it's not necessarily traditionally what people know as ledger drawing. I think you take it to a different level.
Yeah, I make drawings in the ledger tradition, I guess you would say. So as I said before the break, I always had that drawing in addition to the painting. So I did more of my own searching into finding out about ledger art. I asked some very proficient and awesome ledger artists like Don Montelo, Terrence Jardipee, Dwayne Wilcox. I even spoke with some others about the ledger art tradition, and I asked them, you know, how they would feel if I did some ledger type work, and every single one of them said, "Do it. You have a voice. Go ahead." So I started experimenting with it, and I found out that I could use that as a voice to illustrate issues or thoughts or an idea that necessarily wouldn't translate well to a canvas piece. I mix a lot of past and present in those drawings, talking about themes that come up in so-called Indian country and the West. And it gives me an additional voice. And people seem to really like the drawings. And so I've been lucky that way.
Yeah, they are very wonderful. In your bio, you talk about that what you just said, that you use a lot, you are influenced by a lot of stories that have happened in the past with your people and presently, but also the West in the greater sense of the word, right? Not just Native people, but the experience of the people in the West. And you pointed to some kind of challenges that people face and the hardships of life that sometimes happen in that space. So what did you mean by that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the misconceptions about natives and people in the West. I think, you know, there's all those romanticized ideals that Hollywood has just driven into the consciousness of everybody, even around the world, about the West and natives. There's the pan-Indianism thing, you know, where all natives have feathers and live in teepees, but that's not correct. You know, our individual nations were as different as the French and the Spanish. You know, we had different languages and different dress and different culture. So that's one, and I think the other one is the romantic ideal of natives and how much people don't know. So I do a lot of work that kind of pokes holes into those romantic ideals. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a good example. I did a piece with a cowboy taking a selfie, and if you look closely on the phone, it's got a Hello Kitty sticker on it. So one of the things, especially living in Wyoming, is cowboy tough, cowboy strong. You know, we're tough cowboys, tough and strong. They say as they get into their brand new pickup with air conditioning and a heater, and then they check the phone to see what's going on the Instagram or Facebook, and then when they get home they put on Netflix, right? So that's pretty tough. But the same thing goes with a lot of tropes about natives. You know, we're not all one people, we're all different people. One of the things, the questions that I've actually gotten at Crazy Horse is, you know, where do you live? Do you live in teepee?
That question still goes around.
Still goes around. Still
Amazing.
goes around. Right. do you ride horses a lot, stuff like that? And so in my work, I put in imagery, and I try to get across that not only do we have a separate culture, but we still live in today.
Right.
We still listen to music. We're right now we're on this awesome platform for technology that we can use to communicate. So we know about that. We're not just that tribe that you see on TV.
Right. Right. What do you think about, you're talking about the romantic kind of romanticizing of Native culture, but then on the flip side, there's a lot of racism too. And so there's this huge dichotomy between this kind of like dreaming about the past and the romantic past and how things used to be, and then the treatment of Native people in a lot of United States cities or rural areas that is not good, right? So how do you deal with that kind of contradiction at all in your work and in your life?
I do sometimes. I mean, it's hard to get away from any of that. I believe the Native Arts and Cultures Foundation put out a study a few years ago that said that non-natives can hold two different and separate opinions about natives at the same time, that we both get money for no reason, and that we're poor, and that those are two different opinions that can be held by the same person. So you can't win for losing.
Right.
Probably my biggest point as a Native artist, and I advocate for the Native arts in my state, and we've been making some great progress. But one of the things that I advocate for, because I see it so often, is non-natives using native imagery. Now, I don't think that should be a law against. However, any non-native using native imagery usually has a longer and more lucrative career than any native artist that I know. Also, any native artist that I know gives back to their native community somehow, be it through mentorship or actually giving money or donating artwork or teaching, doing workshops. Somehow those native artists give back to their community. I don't know that non-native artists using native imagery do the same.
You're absolutely right, and I've noticed that trend. It's true that non-native artists who use native imagery, they sell their work for a lot of money, and they don't. But a lot of times their work is really interesting because you can tell. I mean, I can tell, like, it's not connected to anything. They're doing a portrait. That's basically what they're doing, and they have no connection to the piece as an artist, or their connection is something different. It's not coming from a place of like where you're working from, your ancestry and how you grew up and your family and your community and everything that you carry with you every day. And they're coming from, oh, this is an interesting thing and it's going to make me a lot of money. I don't know, or that's interesting. It's interesting. And this is something different for me to paint. And I never understood why there was such that kind of difference in the way things are priced. I mean, is that racism? What is that about? You could have two people doing portraits, one native and one non-native, and the non-native person's work will get more press and more money. And do you have any idea what that's about?
I don't. I've asked over the years and thought about it, and the only thing I can think of is that the collector, I think the biggest point is that the collector is uneducated. They're going from a purely aesthetic point of view, where they walk in and see something and say, oh, that's nice. But if they saw let's say two of the same kind of works for the same amount, but they found out that one was made by a native, and that native could explain everything about that image or the imagery used, I think that would make a huge difference. They would say, okay, well, that's authentic, and that's just, pretty or whatever. I
Hmm.
think that's the main thing.
So what is the work that you're doing in Wyoming about this? How are you, it's complicated, and there's a lot of layers here, right? And like you said, you people can paint whatever they want, but the education piece is really important. So
Right.
what's the work that you're doing to try to combat this kind of discrepancy?
Well, one of the things that we found out, the artists on my reservation, was that we had no venues to
Mm.
exhibit anything. So we created the Northern Arapaho Artists Society. I helped co-found it along with 4 other great artists, Ron Howard, Eugene Ridgely, and Bruce Cook. And then we used our individual connections and just reached out and asked for shows, asked for venues. So we raised the profile a little bit. And then I'm also a co-founder of a collective, the Creative Indigenous Collective. And those are all some great artists. There's John Pepion,
Hmm.
Ben Pease, Louis
Wow.
Still Smoking, Gina Still Smoking, Holly Young, and Lauren Monroe. And we did the same thing. We reached out with our individual contacts and got some very good high profile shows to raise awareness. Along with those, we do panels talking about these issues, reach out to other people, do workshops for kids. Um, in my state individually, have been working with the Wyoming Arts Council for a number of years, trying to get more attention to and get more tools for Native artists in Wyoming. So just this year, I finally um, bugged them enough that they created a Native Arts Fellowship.
Great.
So that's a great thing, and they're really giving more attention to trying to find more natives to do like a folk art mentorship grant program that they have. I also work with First Peoples Fund to bring more business acumen to Native artists, not just in Wyoming but nationally. Um, but that's all stuff that I don't see non-Native artists doing that use Native imagery. So there's a difference.
And they should be giving back if they're taking images, and they should be giving back. Wow, you're doing a lot of incredible work. And yes, First Peoples Fund. I see so many different artists from all over who have benefited from their work with First Peoples Fund. So it's just incredible how they've been supporting artists. I think it's interesting you're talking about the state of Wyoming, and finally they've created a fellowship, but also, why is it taking so long? I mean, their tourism is based on this whole kind of notion of the West and all the things we were just talking about. And you would think it would be in their best interest to lift Native artists and to be proud and represent and say, look what we have here. We have a wealth of incredible art and artists and culture and people who can share with you and teach you, and do you find that they're opening up more now that this fellowship is open, or do you find that there's still some resistance? Because do they want to keep the mythical romantic story alive? Do they not want the real thing?
I think that there are a number of people that still hold on to those romantic tropes. However, I think that there are some very dedicated people that are recognizing that times have definitely changed. There needs to be more authentic voices in any story that gets told. Not just the romanticized West, but the real West, which is great. I think that administrations definitely play a part in that. Some administrations are very closed-minded, while others have been very much more open. And it also depends on different organizations. The same thing with their administrations. If they've been doing something for so long, um, it's hard for them to grasp changing that paradigm. If it's already working for them, especially. Um, People like Rebecca West, who's the new director at the Buffalo Bill Cody Center of the West, and Hunter Oldelk, who's the curator there, have done wonders for their organization in recognizing that paradigms need to change and there needs to be more authentic voice, especially Native voices. They're also spearheading bringing tools to educators in Wyoming to teach in their classes about authentic Native history, culture, and artwork.
That's really good to hear. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll talk more about your work and what you see for the future. This is TAILINH AGOYO with Robert Martinez on Usula Media.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But I get it, you're busy, and busy people can't have prediabetes. I read that wrong. They can, okay? Just go to the site.
And we're back. I'm TAILINH AGOYO. I'm here with Robert Martinez, who is an incredible artist and advocate for Native arts and Native people. Robert, you've been talking a lot about the work you're doing in Wyoming, but I'd love to talk about your travels because you've been everywhere.
It seems like it sometimes.
Have you shown your work out of the country as well?
A couple times. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to travel with it at the time. I would love to be able to do an exhibition and travel to somewhere, England or Europe or New Zealand, somewhere that I haven't been. I'd love to do that.
And so most of your travels have been in North America then. So you do a lot of art shows. Do you focus mostly on Native American organizations putting on art shows, or do you do art shows that have all types of artists?
Well, both. Yeah, I don't limit myself. I had been earlier in my career, and I think that's if I'm trying to highlight Native issues and Native art, then if I just show at Native shows, that's kind of redundant. So I've been looking more to other art venues and bringing that voice with me. Like the High Plains Desert Museum, they have a great art show. And working with them, and I mentioned them because last year they, as an organization, decided they needed to change their paradigm, and they restricted their application or their juring process to say that if you're going to put forth any Native imagery, you had to be willing to say that you're Native and be able to prove that. Otherwise, they wouldn't accept the image. You could switch images, but I think that's one of the only organizations I know that's out there that's not a specific Native art show or museum. The Charlie Russell Museum, I think they're looking forward to some more looking at how they do things. They seem to be more welcoming. But yeah, it's a process. I think it's a long process.
I think it would be interesting if these museums and organizations would reach out to you to advise them on the things that we're talking about today, because like we said, it's complicated, but to have a Native voice in there in the discussion to try to move things forward is really important.
I'd be open to that. However, they really need to look at their backyard.
That's
I'm sure
true.
that there's quality people, close to them, close to their home, that have the knowledge and could at least advise them to do that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. To reach out regionally is an important thing as well. So when you do, for those of you who are listening who are not in the art world, there's kind of a circuit of art shows that Native artists do. And I was part of that circuit when I was young, and now Seeds is part of that circuit. So how many of those do you actually do? They go by the seasons, right? And everybody knows what's coming up. Do you pretty much hit all of them?
I used to, but that travel overhead's killer. So
It's a lot.
yeah, I used to do. Let's see, I'm trying to pick when. So in June, I used to do the Idle Jorg, and then I used to do Red Earth.
Yeah.
And then let's see, what's in July. I don't do native pop, but that's in July in South Dakota. And then there's Swaya Ended Market and Seeds, which is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then Northern Plains was in September, and I used to go to that. That was in Sioux Falls. And let's see, the Autry was in November. And I'm probably missing a few, but yeah, I used to make the circuit. And now I kind of pick and choose. You know, if sales go down for a little while there, I'll maybe skip that for a few years and try it again. But yeah, I used to travel all over.
Yeah, I suppose it was easier when the kids were younger too. But so and art shows are always changing, and like you said, and then it depends on who's in charge, right? Too. So and what kind of whatever they're doing to their marketing or the vision that they have or what kind of people they're reaching out to. So I see your point in taking a few years off and coming back and trying it again. But how has the internet affected the way you market your work and reach out to people?
Well, as everybody knows, Riverton, Wyoming is the center of the native art universe. Okay, that's a
yeah.
false
When you were 19, just out of college, it was for you.
So it's really hard to be a professional artist in the middle of Riverton, Wyoming. You know, in the middle of Wyoming, in Riverton, on the Wind River Reservation. So if it wasn't for the internet and social media, my work would probably still be collecting dust, really. Online platforms have helped me so much. They help me to reach a huge audience. And I've been lucky enough to be able to sell work, original work, and reproductions online. So yeah, the internet is key. And I think that would be the same for any native artist that lives in a rural area. You know, but the thing is that the more time that you spend on these online platforms, the less time that you have for family and creation. So you have to find a balance.
Absolutely. And I think the internet can be a really big time suck. You definitely have to be disciplined with doing the work and getting out of there and not getting sucked into some insane conversation or something.
Right.
But you've created a clothing line as well, which is really exciting because I saw that because it enables people to, your work is more accessible. People can buy a t-shirt with one of your pieces on it. And so how has that been going? What's the reception like?
That's been great. People seem to really enjoy it. I know that not everybody can afford original artwork, or sometimes they don't want to have a print. But I believe that art should be accessible to everyone. So you know, if you can't buy a $5,000 painting, but you like the image, you might want to buy a $20 T-shirt. You can wear that, you know, or buy a T-shirt for somebody that you like, or a sweater, or stickers. Stickers are huge.
They're huge, yes.
So yeah, I believe it should be really accessible to everybody. Art's for everyone, not just the super rich or the high class, or it's for everybody. So I created that t-shirt line, and it's allowed me to make some more graphic work that I like, which is another outlet for creativity. But on the whole, it's been great.
And those t-shirts are available on your website, right? And are they and through Instagram as well?
Yeah, if you follow me on social media, Robert Martinez Artist on Instagram or Robert Martinez Artist on Facebook, I post links all the time of the new stuff going up, and if there's a sale, I post that, and I post the pictures of my newest original work that's available also all the time. So
I saw you posted on Social Distance Powwow.
Yeah.
What was the relationship? I mean, that just blew up last year. It was so important for connecting us during the quarantine, and it was really a wonderful way to see other communities and how they were dealing with things, and a way for us to be lifted. So what has your interaction been with posting on there?
You know, that's been great. Dan Simmons, who's also a native artist, he does work in wampum and shell work. Great stuff. He and a couple of other people created that platform during COVID, and yeah, you're right, it just blew up. I've had great reactions and gotten a lot of viewership through that particular page. I think it's awesome. And I think it was very needed during that time too. Not only were Native artists able to sell work, but they could share the way they danced, or they created online powwows you could do in your home room, and then they would feel. I think it was great. I think it was a great platform.
It was really cool. I even remember they did a hair braiding competition.
Right.
It was so cool. It was very creative. Native people are just super creative and fun, and it was nice to be able to have access to so many different people and communities that we wouldn't normally, and especially when we were stuck at home. So when you travel, do you find that in the different regions that you go to, different people have those kind of questions, or like their perception of who you are and the perception of your work? How does it vary from place to place?
Well, I have to say that I think in the South and in the East, it's more that romanticized ideal is probably a little bit more ingrained. People out West are usually, they've driven at least through a reservation or know about a reservation, so it's a little bit different. They have, of course, that creates a different mindset of its own. But yeah, definitely, I think in the East, it's pretty prevalent because it's just people don't know. They're not around. They don't know anybody. There's more people, but
They don't think they know anybody.
Right. Yeah. That's another thing. Yeah.
Right. Because we're here, but they have an idea of
Sure.
what they're supposed to be seeing.
Exactly. Yeah. They have that idea of who Native people are, and we're not. We're all shades now. Look, I'm light skinned. I got a beard. So it's that doesn't fit the stereotypical Native ideal when people think of an Indian. But I always say, well, we're not from India either, so.
Right. So when you go to these shows, what do you do in your booth to get through the day? Like, do they sometimes, to be honest, there's not a lot of people to talk to, but you never know, right? You could have one person come through and make your whole show. So
Sure.
What do you do to get through the day when you're sitting at your booth? And some shows are like 3 and 4 days.
So if you see me at a show, you'll see me, you'll recognize the hat or hats. Yep. And you'll usually see me with sunglasses on.
Yep.
So that allows me to people watch and not make people nervous if I'm staring at them.
Oh, now we know the secret, though.
Right. Yeah. And I can watch and I just like to watch people and observe people. But then that's what I paint is people. People interest me. And I usually talk to my neighbors, whoever they might be on both sides, and talk about shows that they go to or that I'd be interested in, they'd be interested in, or people that they might contact or I might contact. So there's always that good networking between Native artists. And then after that, it's kind of a waiting game.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that, trying to keep yourself occupied and healthy and positive, right? Yeah. And in the face of maybe a slow day or a slow sales show or.
Right. It's got to be, you have to be tough, I think, and mentally prepared for that type of up and down, and just know that like everything probably balances out in the end.
You really do. I've known a few Native artists that, had a tough show, and I've had them myself. Mm-hmm. And you're kicking yourself. You're mad at the world. You're mad at the show administrators, and they didn't do anything, and you're mad at the customers that didn't come, or the ones that always said, well, I'll be back, and then they never came back, and you had your hopes up, and then you're crushed at the end because they didn't. So yeah, you have to have a pretty good amount of mental toughness to to get through some of those tough runs. But then again, there's always the flip side. If you stay positive, be positive, people will see you as positive, and that seems to attract, positive things. So then you have those shows where everything goes right and your stuff's flying off your walls, and there's so many customers in your booth trying to buy stuff that you have to tell them, hold on a second, who's first?
Oh, it's so fabulous.
Yeah.
That's fun. A lot of fun. Okay, we're going to take our break. And when we come back, we'll talk more about our upcoming Form and Concept exhibition in Santa Fe. This is TAILINH AGOYO on Usula Media.
I'm Pablo Batista, and check me out. I'm the co-host for Sabes Que with my co-host, Mr. Jesse Bermudez.
And check us out every Saturday at 2 p.m. for Sabes Que Did You Know?
On Usula Media.
And we're back. I'm TAILINH AGOYO. I'm here with Robert Martinez. And when we left, we were talking all about the art shows, but we have really exciting one coming up. Actually, it's a really exciting time because I feel like we're all coming out of our caves. We're like, okay, we have an art show coming up at Form and Concept. It's an exhibition that's been in development for over 2 years, and it was supposed to be in conjunction with We Are the Seeds at the Santa Fe Rail Yard, which I am the founder and one of the founders and director of We Are the Seeds. We are not having our We Are the Seeds show at the Rail Yard this year, but we are having this gorgeous exhibition featuring over 20 We Are the Seeds artists and supporters. And I'm really excited that you're going to be a part of it. And I saw some of the work that you'll be submitting. So what do you think? Are you excited?
I am. It's great. I think it's a great thing that especially those artists that have been part of Seeds get their own show. I think that's awesome, especially with the way that Seeds was kind of conceived and born out of the need for another venue in that part of the country. I think that's awesome, and that you've expanded over to different areas of the country. I think that's awesome. I'd like to do one of the Seed shows back east if I can ever get the budget to travel over there.
Yeah, it's very different, and what we're trying to develop here is to do smaller shows. We're not replicating that model of an art show. The artists that we work with here, we make sure that they don't have to pay a booth fee and that we cover their travel expenses, because it's a different place. It's a different region, and people here are still learning first that we exist, and then, and then about Native art. And so you may or may not, people may or may not be receptive. So we want to make sure that when people do come to Seeds here, artists, that they're covered and they're not waiting for a sale to be able to get home.
Right. Yeah.
I just don't want artists to be in that position. So we're developing this kind of a different kind of strategy for our work here. And I'm really excited about it because
that's great. That's great.
I feel like artists should just be supported no matter what and not have to worry. But for this Form and Concept show, I'm very excited because it's going to be a journey of Seeds, and we're going to share about why Seeds came to be and where Seeds is going, and highlighting the artists who have been with us along the way. And so it feels really good to be a part of it. It's opening August 13th at Form and Concept, which is on Guadalupe. And then we have another opening just before Indian Market on August 20th. So will you be showing at Swaya Santa Fe Indian Market this year?
I will be. Yeah, they've moved my booth, but yeah, I will be there.
Yeah, I don't even know what to expect. I know that they've made a lot of changes because of the pandemic, and it seems like there are a lot of other pop-up shows happening, like at Buffalo Thunder, and it should be a really interesting time in Santa Fe and very different than what we're used to.
I agree. I don't know if it's going to be interesting, but I know it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. Okay. I'm agreeing on that. Be prepared for anything.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So that's great. So when do you plan on, when are you coming into town?
I should be there. We should be there Tuesday, that Tuesday before, and we'll be there the whole week. And it's going to be a weird year because they're not having a seed show.
Uh,
So I usually do that one, and then I do the Indian Market one. So
Right.
I'm actually like on half time. I'm going to actually be able to enjoy a little bit of time there this year, which is odd. I don't usually get to do that.
You have to take advantage of that. And that's what I'm thinking too, because while we're having this exhibition, Forming Concept, thankfully and beautifully, they're doing all the heavy lifting. And so, I'm responsible for a lot of things, but not in the usual way where
Sure,
we're making sure the porta potties are there or the stage and different
Right.
things like that. So I'm telling myself too, like this might be the only time that I can, walk into the show and actually like have had a shower or whatever, just like being fresh and I put on a nice dress and, and usually I'm running around just like a mess, just like fixing things.
Right. I get it. I see you running around. You and Paula running around all the time,
Yeah.
putting out fires and
Yeah, exactly. Which is
reorganizing plans. Yeah.
it's great, but you can't have your hair done or makeup or anything. And so now I'm like, all right, I'm getting totally glammed up for this one. Take a picture because you're not going to see it again. Yeah, I'm super excited. We're actually driving out. So we're doing a 4-day. Are you driving as well?
Oh yeah, I have to bring all the artwork.
Oh, all the stuff. Yeah, that's right. So what do you drive? A huge truck?
No, I have a pickup truck, and I've done enough shows over the years that I've trimmed down my display to get the bare essentials, and it all fits in the back of my pickup, along with my wife and kids. And,
Your family?
yeah, I don't put them in the back. They get
You
their
don't put I had that image. You put them in the back. It's covered.
Sometimes I wish they would ride in the back, but no, they're in the front.
And what do you do on long road trips to keep everyone's sanity?
I've been fortunate. My kids are really good. They travel really well. They've never been too hard to deal with, especially because everything is a long road trip in Wyoming. It takes forever to get anywhere in Wyoming.
Like to the store is a long trip, right?
Yeah. So they're used to it. But fortunate that they like my taste in music. So I usually have the radio blaring and they dig
What's your
my
taste
stuff.
in music?
Oh, it's everything. It's from ABBA to ZZ Top. Did
That's
you catch
cool.
that? ABBA A
Yeah.
to ZZ Top C.
That's really good.
Dad joke. Sorry.
Sounds like a book in the making.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good title. So we're wrapping up, but I'd really love to hear your thoughts on, we're coming out of this pandemic, maybe going into another, another wave where possibly having to, settle down and back into our homes again. But what do you see for the future for you and your work?
Well, I would like to continue to pay the bills basically, and bring my artwork to different venues that I haven't been to before. I've been fortunate enough to keep doing that and make more connections with, especially museums or other organizations, and change those expectations of who Native people are and what Native art is. I'd like to continue to do that, and especially I'd like to do that, internationally. That would be great. But yeah, I'd like to continue to push the boundaries of my own artwork and explore new forms. I did minor in sculpture, but I don't get to do a lot of sculpture just because I'm always painting or drawing. But I'd like to push my art and talent into that direction. Maybe do some more mixed media, three-dimensional stuff. I do it, but I just don't have enough time to do a body of it, so I don't exhibit it that way. It looks like a one-off, but I'd like to make it a body of work. So I would like to be able to have the freedom to do that, but it's hard when when the regular stuff, the paintings and the drawings are selling, and that's the bread and butter that you have to continue to make.
Absolutely.
You know,
Right.
um,
Right. Right. I see what you're saying. I would love to see your sculpture. That sounds incredible. And I love the idea that you're always exploring and pushing yourself in further and further. Um, so let's talk about, before we wrap up, again, where people can find you and what other shows you have coming up and your website and stuff. One more time.
Okay. You can find my website at martinezartdesign.com. So Martinez Art Design, all one word. You can find me on social media, Instagram and Facebook, Robert Martinez Artist. I have, of course, the Foreman Content Show is coming up in Santa Fe, and that's opening the 13th. Is that correct?
It's opening on the 13th, and it's just do a search for Forming Concept, and they're on Instagram, or you could follow Where Are the Seeds. We're going to have all the preview stuff.
Awesome. And then I'll be at Santa Fe Indian Market, just off of my usual spot. Tune into my social media. I'm going to post a map because I've been moved. That's in August 19th to 20th. I am currently exhibiting at the Brinton Museum in Bighorn. That'll be up, Bighorn, Wyoming. That'll be up through September 5th. I'm also currently exhibiting at the Clymer Museum in Ellensburg, Washington through September. I'll be, one of my pieces is in the C.M. Russell auction, which is happening the same weekend as Indian Market. So if you want to look that up. And let's see, I think that almost covers it.
That is a lot.
Right.
It's wonderful. It's thank you so much, Robert, for the work that you do, and thank you for the work that you do advocating for Native artists and for Native art and everything that you do in the world. I really appreciate it. And thank you for coming on our show today. It's been so
Thank
wonderful to catch up with you, because
Yeah.
I see we're always like, hi, hey, just like in passing, and we're always so busy. So it's really nice to be able to have had this conversation with you.
Yeah.
So thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for all you do and all the work that you've done for Native artists and continue to do for Native arts and Native artists. It's awesome. I love to see it.
Thank you so much. This is TAILINH AGOYO. We'll see you next week. And have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.